Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie. My name is Jason.
And I'm Rich.
And I'm Chris.
And we've made it to the movies of 1997, Part 2. With 1997 being such a spectacular year for films, we decided to split our usual one episode into two for 97, and you are now listening to Part 2. With the films we cover today still doesn't cover the array of wonderful films that arrived in this year, and we certainly will be back at some point to do just that. This week's films include a spectacular sci-fi adventure with Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element, finding a long-lost spaceship in Event Horizon, and being reunited with our dinosaur friends in the lost world Jurassic Park. No guests this week, so you're stuck with just the three of us this time.
Yeah, I'm back, I'm afraid. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. And Rich is back. Yay! I mean, Cliff did a wonderful job of filling in your shoes, but you just can't be replaced, Rich. You know.
No, indeed. Yeah, so, that's one thing to say about me, irreplaceable.
Exactly. That's exactly the word I was looking for. So, welcome back, mate. Glad to have you back.
Good to be back.
Yeah. And I don't know why I just did that, but...
Very middle class. Yeah. Proper landlord over there.
Got the old the Swedish host in this week.
Really good. No, I'm going to do that. It'll be offensive.
There's no Swedish listeners.
That we know of.
Well, I think we have had listeners from Sweden, actually. So if you're still listening, we're sorry. But before we get into our film picks for this week, I have an announcement to make.
Ooh.
What do you think it is?
That you've created an AI called Skynet?
Yeah.
How did you know,
successfully
Chris?
cloned dinosaurs.
Oh.
We're replacing all our voices with AI. And
Yeah.
we don't have to record anymore. We just feed it into a machine and we can sit back and make loads of money.
Faster than light travel to alternate dimensions.
I'm telling you, if I was as clever to do all this kind of stuff, I wouldn't be sitting here podcasting, would I?
We could have like
You
different
have
hosts.
a point.
Yeah, our special guests.
Yeah.
You know, Tom Cruise.
That's a great idea,
Maybe not.
actually.
Maybe not. He's.
No?
I don't want Tom Cruise on this podcast. So.
Okay. Anyway, my announcement is that we have a Discord server open now. Yay!
Sweet.
I know, right? So if you fancy coming over to the What's Wrong with Wolfie Discord and chat everything retro, you know, not just the 90s, but also, you know, any 80s or any even noughties or zeros or 2000s or however you want to pronounce that decade, that's fine too. So
The
yeah,
double
come on
O's, I don't know.
that whole decade was very awkward when it came to that, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, it's another time I'm going to say to people, I really should start using Discord more. So,
Yes.
we'll see how it pans out. I'm not holding my breath, but I will do my
I've
best.
never
for the
used it
cause.
or been on any of the portals. So.
It's fine.
It's good, man.
It's like a chat room. It's the nearest thing we've got to a chat room in this day and age.
So yeah, you will find a link in the show notes. I'll make sure I'll put one in there. So if you fancy coming over and saying hello, we've got a few members already joined, so that's been lovely. And yeah, just the more the merrier. So yeah, go and click that link, and hopefully we'll see you there. Now, on to our movie picks, guys. Let's get straight into it. Rich, which of these fine films was your choice?
I chose Event Horizon.
Where's she been for the last 7 years, Doctor?
That's what we're here to find out. After 7 years in deep space,
There were 18 people on board this ship when it disappeared. I want them all accounted for.
Opening outer door.
it came back abandoned.
Any crew? Negative. This place is a tomb.
But it didn't come back alone.
Captain Miller! I've got some problems here!
This ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe. Who knows where it's been? And what it's brought back with it.
Did you hear that? What is it? The ship is reacting to us and the reactions are getting stronger.
What are you telling me? That this ship is alive?
I have such wonderful things to show you.
Oh my God!
It knows my secrets. It knows my fears.
Vacate. I want off this ship.
can't leave. She won't let you. God help us.
Beautiful, beautiful choice. And, like...
That's weird, because it's not a film that I would consider yours.
It isn't mine either, considering the director, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Because, again, I found Event Horizon on DVD.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it straight away.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to interrupt, I just found it a bit odd.
That's fine, we're used to it, it's fine.
It's going to rip your eyes out.
Yeah.
And hold them out in front of you and be all, like, chanty and stuff.
But yeah, like... You know, we've said many a times that the amount of great films that have been released in this year. So what was it that made you narrow on this particular one?
For me, and I kind of look back at it in a weird way because I think what stands out about it, it's not like the best film of 97. I know I've chosen it, but I think what stands out about it so much is that I still look at it as the one Paul W.S. Anderson film that actually feels like it's actually accomplished piece of filmmaking. he's a director that he's very, very, very mixed to mid resume or filmography, and even the films of his I enjoy, things like your early Resident Evils, of course, Mortal Kombat. Saying about this, it doesn't feel like his film, and this is like early on into his career, and this should be kind of where it's lower on the scale. But in terms of the cast that he's got, some of the shots, the feeling of suspense, the score, which I forget who composed it now. That was what's his face? I forgot his name now. It's going to escape me. But anyway, I won't hold on. Yeah, Michael Kamen, I think it was. That was it. It just feels like a really well put together film. It kind of has a bit of a vision going on. I'm not going to pretend it's like an auteur piece of cinema. It's Paul W.S. Anderson, and it's still got some of the trappings that you find in some of his lesser films. He's kind of a bit cheesy, weird, like shock moments that don't quite come together. But you've just got a really great cast with Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, the other guy you always forget, who's in Alien.
Jason Isaacs in it.
Yeah, Jason Isaacs, who I once
the best
saw
James Bond we never had.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, Jason Isaacs, of course.
I'm always on that soapbox.
And the one guy from The Burrows, who I always forget his name. Sorry. He was in Alien as well, that was like a small role. Don't
forget Sean Pertwee.
Oh, and Sean Pertwee is spitting him
and the
dad,
ever lovely, Christ Richardson.
Oh, shit.
My brain has stopped.
What's her face? Oh, bollocks. It's gone now. Oh, God.
Not Jolie Richardson. She's
it's no Jolie Richardson, yeah. I keep thinking Natasha Richardson, rest in peace, but it's not. Yeah, it's Jolie Richardson.
Jolie Richardson, yeah.
Yeah, and there's some other woman as well. I can't remember her name. But yeah, it's a really good film. And I remember when I saw it for the first time, it really did kind of just throw me for a loop. It went in, it felt very typical, like, okay, this is kind of an Alien kind of setup, we're finding this ship that seems abandoned, are setting foot on board, there's a threat, and I kind of went in with my blinders on, and I didn't see where it was going to go with Sam Neill being like the big bad. Spoilers. I think when the first time I watched it, I didn't quite twig, and I thought he kind of got possessed. He was like, he started out as normal, innocent on their side, but the whole thing, it wasn't like a scheme, but like he was in on it all along. He just wanted on board the ship. He wanted back.
Yeah, he wanted to get back
in his domain. His lair. It's the reveal, the whole scene where you've got the video and it's kind of that weird like bloodbath kind of orgy thing, and it's like
that was weird.
Fun. And generally, I think that's like one moment I think of horror. The only one I've seen where Paul Anderson really pulled it off. It was actually quite shocking. And yeah, I mean, it's typically cheesy in 90s. Some of the CGI is woeful, but I kind of like it for it. Interesting choice of music in the end credits, which was a very Paul Anderson choice, but it made sense the more I thought about it.
Great, I forgot that was there, and then
Get a Load of This Funky Shit by Prodigy or something.
Yeah, I was like, yes, love it.
It makes sense. It's in the title. It's like, what the fuck did we just watch? Crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did used to write it off and think, oh yeah, Paul Anderson, you just chuck in, you know, crap that teenage boys want to be like, yeah, horror, mythology, you know. But yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. And watching it again, I think it really holds up. There's some nice visual effects in it, some really nice miniature work. Again, really, really nice score. Great performance from Sam Neill, who's always, you can always rely on Sam Neill. Of course, Larry Fishburne, fantastic. Yeah, there's nothing about it that truly stands out other than the fact I just think it's a film that I think Paul Anderson probably needs to be remembered for more and needs to get more credit for. But at the end of the day, you're only as good as your last film, in my opinion. And he's made some absolute turds.
Well,
and funnily enough, we're watching a film, you know, your pick does have his wife in it, of all things. So it's a nice bit of connective tissue through our choices. Sorry, Jason, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, when I rewatched it last week, like, I remember watching this, you know, around the time it came out, but I couldn't really remember that much about it, to be honest. And I know, like, over the years, it's got quite a cult following, and it's one of these films that really bombed at the box office at the time, but now it's kind of looked at as a really good film, and like I say, it's got that cult following.
Yeah.
But what I really liked about Event Horizon was everything that you said, but also like the enemy in this film, you know, because it wasn't a physical thing, really, was it? I mean,
no.
You know, the thing that made it more scary and more on the edge of your seat was because you couldn't really see it because it was the ship itself, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is so cool. Which is so it is essentially like a space sci-fi version of like a haunted house film. It's kind of like Amityville Horror kind of thing. Like the house is kind of the threat. It takes over. It's kind of like how it does. It takes over the people that possess it. It possesses them, and they do awful things. And yeah, I think that's really quite refreshing. Instead of it being, you know, an alien threat, you know, a computer that's gone self-aware and the ship's, you know, taking over. It's
you know, and it's all revolved around this gravity drive that they've created so they can travel instantly. But it's like open this door to this demon dimension, and it's just great. It's just like the whole like imagination for this story. It was just great, and that's just one of the things that really stuck with me after I finished watching it. And I was like, yes, that was really good, just on the storyline and the imagination that went into it. Just on that alone.
I've always loved Event Horizon. I remember I've got the VHS and then the DVD, and I used to watch it quite a lot. And I'm a proper like not pseudo science, like fringe science kind of nut job. And where it delves with, if you do unlock faster than light travel, does it create an alternate reality every time you jump? And this kind of asks that question, like, what if it just opens a portal to a completely different existence?
Unlucky for them, it was some like weird, you know,
on this like
demonic one.
Yeah, it plays fast and loose with science theory and stuff like that, but it's so well executed. I remember watching it even back in 1997, 98, going like, I'm enjoying this. This is great. Like you've all said, the stellar performances by the whole cast, putting it all into it. It does come off sometimes as like an Alien or Aliens knockoff.
It does. I mean,
when you've got the what do you call it, room, you know, where they've just got the big round like table thing.
And it's all white walls, isn't it?
It's like gothic horror in space. Just look at the production design.
Yeah, that gravity drive, I still say it looks gorgeous. You've got that kind of Geiger-esque kind of like spikes on the walls and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, even all the wall thing was just amazing to look at.
A few years back, I was watching some stuff, and it brought up the work done on Event Horizon at Pinewood Studios. And it talks about the gothic horror production design, how they made a spaceship look like a gothic cathedral. Okay. The columns in the sick bay and recreation areas looks like a cathedral columns.
Works nicely for that kind of like of somewhat religious themes, you know, hell
you've got all this religious like iconography and imagery coming off subliminally. You're taking it all in. Yeah. You naturally identify like that scene where he's just in 0G and there's a cross behind him. And he's just rotating in 0G, and there's that Christian cross. It's a Christian cross, but it's on its side.
Yeah.
But you never clock it. And then until you hear about it, and then every scene you see, you're like, oh, fuck, yeah. And then you've got the whole drive section where you're walking down that rotating James Bond gun barrel thing, and then you go into that massive rotating drive, and it's just pure gothic horror full of hell and hellfire iconography. It's just insane.
It was really amazing. And
Small little touches.
Yeah, you're saying that. I mean, that was the other thing that really I took away from rewatching it was the sets and how just amazing how much work that they put into it, and nothing seemed out of place. Everything seemed to have been worked on really well to like really good detail.
Yeah.
And that really shone out of the film and really helped with the immersion of everything.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more.
It's just a fun sci-fi romp of a film. It's just batshit crazy, and it's done well.
I like how you said that, Chris, but then like you get the scene where, you know, Jason Isaac's skin gets hung.
Yes.
It gets hung up on the wall, you know. It's like, whoa, I was not expecting that at all.
And it whizzes by as well, like a nice lean, like what, hour and 35 minutes, which is like, that's good cinema. I'm telling you, that's good.
And I love the ending as well to Event Horizon.
Yeah.
Where you find out that whatever's possessing the ship or taking control of whatever AI, or it's literally possessing the ship physically, is still there on the lifeboat head section of the ship.
Yeah.
Because she has this thing where like she wakes up first, and then all of a sudden she's like, you know, you're being rescued, and then it's Dr. Weir, isn't it? Like all cut up and stuff like that, and then she wakes up again as an actual rescue team. But then as the camera pans out, it just establishes that it's still here, and it's being taken wherever you guys are going to go. And then they never follow it up. There's probably some slash fan fiction about it, but
I'm sure there is, yeah. But you mentioned about Weir and where he turns and then becomes the bad guy, and that was something else there. I really liked the design of the makeup that they put onto Sam Neill, and the whole
all, like naked and cut up and bald. And it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
his eyes are gone, and it's like it's messed up. I think it's great, really, really great.
Yeah, because it's just a complete difference to what he looked like originally, and I kind of like, you know, not used to seeing Sam Neill play that kind of character.
Yeah, I was like used to them doing like Dead Calm and
but I think that's
like,
but I think that's where it works, because if you want to double bluff your audience, and show them something they're not coming, you just bring in New Zealand's Michael Palin, you know, the nicest guy in the world. You put him in your film, and then all of a sudden, no, he's not the Dr. Weir that everyone knows. He's just been possessed by some malevolent air.
There you go, Chris.
That's the word.
Nasty.
And you realise that, oh shit, like, Sam Neill, what did you do? Like,
he plays it really well. He plays it really well, and it's just a really interesting,
straight and so placid, and then boom.
Just a really interesting side to him that he can pull off these kind of roles. And
he doesn't like ham it up, you know, which some actors might do. And really clearly he was enjoying himself, but it's easy for an actor in that position to ham it up and just be, oh, I'm going to have fun with this. But you can tell he's having fun, but he keeps it very reined in at the same time.
In a way, this is going to be like the most random as fuck segue that I'm about to make.
Chris,
right?
Right.
But the only other film I've seen Sam Neill as the bad guy in, there's probably plenty of them, it's Chevy Chase's Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Oh man, good film. Yeah.
Where he plays the agent pursuing Chevy Chase because he's the result of an experiment that failed but also worked at the same time. And he is like Rich said, he doesn't ham that villain part up. He's so charismatic that you almost start rooting for the guy. It's the most insane balance. It's crazy.
But did anyone ever? I don't know if it was just me. Like in some parts, I just felt like I was just seeing Alan Grant from Jurassic Park, just being in a sci-fi film instead of being in a Jurassic Park film.
I think because like I think he's just so synonymous as the face of Jurassic Park. It's like Chris Pratt. Yeah, you can fuck off.
Coming out Friday, Chris. Coming out Friday.
Yes.
I will be there, don't worry.
Which legacy character's gonna die? Let's find out.
Yep, it's guaranteed. Guaranteed.
I do feel like Sam Neill in this, he looked like what Alan would have looked like had he stayed on the fence.
That's good.
When,
they
turned the power back on.
Yes. I don't know who they're going to sacrifice, but you can't sacrifice Grant.
Wu's gonna get it surely because he's a shithead.
Not long to wait.
Maybe Gennaro comes back and gets it.
Or the T-Rex just throws up an arm from 30 years before. How's that film 29 years old, guys? Jesus Christ.
Look, we've got the Jurassic Park talk coming up. Let's get back.
I have more affection for the likes of Mortal Kombat because I just really kind of kick back and enjoy it. I know it's crazy, cheesiness, but this is the one film in all of Paul Anderson's filmography that just feels like an actual film, and it's just a nicely rounded off piece of cinema that just doesn't do anything wrong. It just works. Nice lean runtime, great cast, good bit of body horror, good religious themes. I like a bit of possession, whether it's like Exorcist or this. It just seems to tick a lot of boxes for me, and it just works. It really, really works. One of the more interesting pieces of sci-fi, which, as much as I'm a bit of a nerd, I don't necessarily gravitate towards sci-fi. I don't go out of my way to seek it. It has to do something just right for it to work for me. Yeah. And this does that. Throws in the right kind of horror, and I think that kind of is what appeals to me.
Yeah. And see, I'm similar in that way. I discover these niche kind of sci-fi things. I used to at 2 a.m. in the morning when you can't sleep, you turn your TV on. There's a random movie on at 1 a.m. and you think to yourself, "Fuck, that's actually quite fucking good."
Yeah, definitely.
And then you end up finding it and buying it.
I'd suggest going onto YouTube and finding a few videos about Event Horizon, because I think it's got quite an interesting story to tell from behind the scenes and during the filmmaking process and everything. And there's quite some interesting talk about that horror orgy scene, and how it came to be and how it was cut to what it was in the last final version and everything else. Because I think this film had the NC-17 rating on its first cut, and it was 130 minutes. And they had to cut it down so much and take a lot of that. I think they had to take a lot of that kind of horror orgy scene out, and I'm quite grateful in some ways. I mean, that whole section must have been quite difficult to film, considering what was going on in that film, and even what you do see, with the hand going into that guy's mouth and other stuff. I don't know. It must have been an interesting day on the set, I think. But so no, I just suggest going onto YouTube and just having a look at some of these videos and learning a little bit more behind the scenes stuff, because I thought it was quite interesting to go.
I find these are some of the kind of films I find the most interesting when it comes to the making of and the little stories on set. And these kind of films that once upon a time, when I was really into DVDs, these are the kind of films I'd always enjoyed listening to a commentary on. As opposed to, the commentary for the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, which I'm like, it's like you know all about it, you see all the publicity, but these kind of films, these are where the stories come out, and they're nice little weird nuggets, and the way they're shot, it just makes for much more interesting filmmaking, whether it's on the cutting room floor or it actually makes it into the final product. So it's quality. I like it a lot.
Well, Paul W.S. Anderson's initial cut of the film, as I said, ran for 130 minutes and was quite graphically violent, so much so that both test audiences and the studio balked at the finished product. Paramount ordered him to cut the film by 30 minutes and tone down some of the violence, a decision he now regrets, as he didn't have enough time for a proper re-edit, and therefore believes he cut out 10 minutes too much. Although it was announced in 2012 that producer Lloyd Levin had found a VHS tape that might contain a full version of the film, Anderson revealed in 2017 that neither he nor Levin had seen it yet, as they have both been too busy to be in the same country with a VHS player. Although he believes...
It's a problem we all have,
Although
I've got one in the loft, but nothing to play it on.
Although he believes that the condition of the copy will be too poor to use, Anderson has stated that he is still excited to see what's on it one day. And I think that revolves around that sex orgy scene, the horror orgy scene as well. 97, DVDs were kind of around, were they? I can't really remember when they came in, to be honest. But
that was the real infancy of them. I think that's kind of the year they really kind of broke through.
So filmmakers weren't really holding on to everything that they had, recorded while making the film, because it didn't really have anything to do with it. So a lot of it did get lost. And I think this extended version of this horror scene was one of the casualties, although there's believed to be maybe some former versions somewhere out there. But Although the film met with mostly negative reviews and a disappointing box office result at the time of its release, it amassed a considerable cult following over the years. Director Paul Anderson said that the movie's cult status was predicted to him years before by Kirk Russell. Anderson screened Event Horizon before they started work on Soldier, and Russell said...
Soldier.
Do you know what? I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't think I've seen Soldier, and I'm a kind of big Kurt Russell fan, and I haven't seen it.
Oh man, I forgot about that film.
Is it worth not seeing?
Great, yeah, he did get.
Is it
really
worth
panned.
not seeing?
Yeah. Yes, Jason. I believe that's the correct answer. I'm not sure what your question was, but
okay. Well, Russell said, "Forget about what this movie's doing now. In 15 years' time, this is going to be the movie you're glad you made." And I think he's right. Released on the 22nd of August of 1997 with a budget of $60 million.
Wow, that's more than I thought. I'm not gonna lie.
Took in 26. You can see why a sequel was never made. But would it need it wouldn't need a sequel though, would it?
No, I think it's a film that did really good with the remake. I'd be all over a remake of this.
I asked on our Discord server if any of our members had any thoughts that they'd like to share about any of the films we're covering. And Matty Boo did come back and said about Event Horizon that it is top tier viewing and still holds up to this day. Man, that techno music at the end ages it tremendously. Like
it's pretty retro in that regard, so don't worry about it, it's fine.
Like, you're watching a 90s movie the moment it starts playing.
Yeah, it's great. It's either something like that or it's like some proper like turn of the 2000s like new metal. Yeah. It's just time capsule. Perfect. Beautiful.
Well, let's move on to our next film. And Chris, out of the two that left, which one did you choose?
The Lost World. Jurassic Park. Oh no, sorry, Jurassic Park.
Thank you, Chris.
Mommy! Daddy! I found something!
A British family on a yacht cruise stumbled upon Site B.
And now it's only a matter of time before this lost world is found and pillaged.
Hopefully we've kept this island quarantined and contained, but I'm in shock about all this.
Wow. Isn't it great?
Ooh, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.
The hell was that?
Go. As fast as you can.
I need you to send rescue immediately.
Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in history of bad ideas.
Let's get this movable beast underway. Don't move!
What is it?
Mommy's very angry.
Why this film, I guess, is the question, because I'm surprised, and I know it's Jurassic Park, and I know how much you love the original Jurassic Park, and I'm surprised that you chose the sequel to it.
Because I think I just wanted to talk about how, like, it was 97, and I was pumped for a sequel to Jurassic Park.
So I think a lot of people were, weren't they?
And I was like, yes, it's happening. God, this is happening. And then at the age of 13 or 14, when I finally sit and watch it, I'm like, this is the least Spielberg film by Spielberg that I've seen. And it's weird. It's a weird film, especially when you rewatch it now. Spielberg doesn't do sequels for a reason. And this is it.
This is the prime example.
No, but I say that and I'm like, it falls so flat, yet also has these incredible, amazing highs all the way through it. But it just doesn't, it's played so safe. Yeah. And again, like Indiana Jones 4, Spielberg can do sequels, he's proved that. Look at, Temple of Doom, technically a prequel, but it's a sequel too. And then Last Crusade, they're phenomenal films. They look stunning, they sound stunning, filmed beautifully. But this film, when it came out, I was just like, yes, it's a sequel. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, you're excited and you sit there and it starts really eerily and it's all like, And then all of a sudden in the second act, it's just a generic monster movie. And it's exciting, and you get to see, it's a lovely time capsule where you get to see where CG is taking over as the dominant effects platform.
Yeah.
They're doing less and less physical and more CG because it's quicker and it's easier. And I think that The Lost World has that perfect balance still. It still hasn't gone. But it was darker than the first film. Now, have you guys read the books at all?
I've read Jurassic Park and listened to the audiobook read by John Hurt. John Hurt, sorry.
John Hurt.
Kevin's dad.
Kevin McCall's dad. The second book is... I bought the second book, must be 98, so that's after I saw the film. It is so beautifully dark, and if you guys can ever read it, it's the perfect Jurassic Park sequel vehicle and a completely missed, botched opportunity. I'm not using this as a dissing for the film, I'm just kind of like... The Lost World novel is so dark. It is industrial espionage. There's like double crossing everywhere. It is a phenomenal read, and it's so fastly paced. This film starts out like that, and then all of a sudden it changes complete tone. And I remember watching it when I was a kid, but yeah, about 13, 14, and I was like, this is amazing. We're seeing the T-Rexes do stuff that we'd never thought we'd see. You know, the amazing stuff that they've got, that massive, like, you know, RV with the extendable middle. I was like, this is amazing. I fucking love this. And it is just one of my favourite sequels that I also love to hate and hate to love at the same time. It's weird. And even now, if I do a Jurassic Park rewatch, I'll go watch the first one, I'll give it a few days, and I'll watch the second. And it's fun. But again, there's just something missing, and I still to this day can't work it out.
When I watched this back yesterday, I think you said a minute ago, like, it's just a generic action film, and it was.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that they did in this film that made it not like in Jurassic Park as well was the lead characters and Jeff Goldblum, really, because he didn't feel like it was...
He's a completely different character.
Yeah, it didn't feel like he was Ian Malcolm.
No.
It just felt like a generic action star.
It was just Jeff Goldblum playing himself again.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't seem to have that... I don't know, whatever he had in the first film, he didn't have
it's
any of that...
awkward charisma, that kind of like awkward, nerdy, geeky, chicy kind of blend. And it was missing, and he was just a generic action hero. You could put Ian Malcolm from The Lost World and put him in Independence Day.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't notice the damn difference.
He just seemed kind of pissed off the whole time. He just felt like a crotchety old dad. Like,
like it's a
Sarah,
general inconvenience.
Kelly,
but
like,
in the book, the Ian Malcolm character is written so superbly by Michael Crichton.
Yeah.
And the Jeff Goldblum character in the first film is played almost off the page. You read that book, you can just see and hear Jeff Goldblum saying the words. When this film came out, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I read the book and I was like, well, where is all this amazing stuff that's in this book? Isn't in the film. And I was just like, it's one of those studies of, to quote the first film, they were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stand back to work out if they should. And it is so true. There's so much going on. In fact, there's more going on in the film than there is in the book. And there's a lot going on in the book. There are so many plot threads going on. And it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But it just doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie. It does in parts. Whereas you watch even Indiana Jones 4, it feels like a Spielberg movie. It's not one of his best.
Kind of.
The Lost World... Yeah, but this... I remember, like, I went to cinema with all of my family up in Bristol to see this. And we all went to this massive cinema. And there must have been... Now there's 5 of them, and there was 3 of us. And 2 of the friends. So yeah, quite a lot of people, and you feed off the atmosphere. And I was pumped. I'd walk in cinema and you see massive posters, something has survived. I've got one on my wall right behind me, but this isn't by any means dissing the film. I loved the film, but there's just something off, and I only realised it about 2 years ago. And Spielberg's always said that he never wanted to do a sequel. He always wanted to do a sequel to Jurassic Park, but he never wanted to direct it.
Yeah.
And now I can understand why. But it's an enjoyable film. The effects are fantastic. The plot moves at breakneck speed, and it's lovely because at the beginning of the film, they're treating these dinosaurs as animals.
Yeah.
They're respectful, especially the ever lovely Julianne Moore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
she's there
gone home,
documenting it. And you got this perfect representation of John Hammond, this manipulative guy who sent Ian Malcolm's girlfriend out there before he's even told Ian Malcolm that he's going. He sends her there as a bait trap to get him there to document these dinosaurs in their habitat. And they're treated like, even Vince Vaughn, a very early appearance by Vince Vaughn, they're treated respectfully, they're treated like animals. And then you get to the whole caging thing where you start to feel, fuck, these dinosaurs, they're being caged. You have sympathy for them because you go to rescue centres and animal sanctuaries and you see the same thing. You see animals just caged up and being shipped off to their next owners or the highest bidder. And
Let's not talk about Jurassic Park films and bidders, because now we're going to go over that.
No.
Into slasher flick territory, but let's not go.
But this is what I'm getting at. This is where it's gestating. The first half of the film is this lovely film. It's dark. It sets the tone brilliantly. It's not that happy Jurassic Park feeling you had. This is kind of very brooding, very dark areas. And then the second half, it's Spielberg does Godzilla.
Yeah.
Or Spielberg does King Kong, or basically any monster movie where they take a monster from their habitat and take them to the city.
Including Japanese businessmen, which was not
Yes.
at all racist.
Yes.
Japanese people. It's silly.
And what I love about it is by having Julianne Moore's character as that kind of veterinary kind of studying, she's gone out there to document and take pictures, and you've got the guy, Vince Vaughn, who's a peacekeeper basically. And done stuff for Greenpeace as well. They go in to document them before Hammond's shareholders take control of his company. That's working with the book plot, but really stretching it thin. They're taking out all the good elements and then just cherry picking the little easy ones for people to follow. And it just, I don't know, it's just so weird. It's like, what film was we were talking about the other week, weren't we, where the first half is fine and then it was Tomorrow Never Dies, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then the second half, just like, what happened? Did a different team of directors and writers just come in and finish your film?
Yeah, it does feel like that.
It's just so disjointed. But like I said, the chase between the Rex following the smell of the blood through the jungle is a great idea.
Yeah.
And it works because you're seeing these dinosaurs as they were real animals. What did you do to an amazing book? Like,
it was probably just like,
what it feels like is
distributor pressure or studio pressure to make
like
it more
Jurassic,
make it more like Jurassic Park and not go more so on the original stuff from the book. And they wanted more of the same kind of action and just the same kind of stuff that we got in Jurassic Park, but slightly different. And that is what we got in this film. You know, you got similar kind of action scenes. I mean, there was a couple of different ones, and I really appreciated the one where the T-Rex was putting his face in the tent. I mean, that was that was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of more of the same kind of.
Yeah, it was
what we've seen in Jurassic Park, and like they replaced Muldoon with blimmin' Pete Postlethwaite, pretty much playing the same kind of character.
Exactly. It's like the new Jurassic World movies, and like all Marvel movies and quite a lot of movies now. It's all designed by committee.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is, and I suspect, in the back of their brains as well, the same with Batman and Robin, especially at this time, they're thinking about the toys.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the merchandise and all that kind of stuff, and certain things need to be in this film to make...
Mm-hmm.
It's the Ninja Turtles effect. It's like what you got between Turtles and then Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, It just suddenly just got its arse out. Oh, okay, I see what you're doing now. Even down to the logo and the title card in the second Turtles film, it's like, oh, it's the cartoon now. You've completely made it toyetic and kiddified it and packaged it, and
it's the same as selling it. Yeah, it's the same as Jurassic Park 3. I remember seeing Jurassic Park 3 with you in the cinema, Rich.
Yeah.
And the trailers were like, oh my god, this is great. Like, what's going on? And then we saw it and like, okay, that felt like a TV movie.
But
I have more appreciation for JP3 as I've gotten older.
Yes. Well, wonder why. I mean, what I do like about Lost World, and even to this day, and at the time, you could be like, I'm 4 years off the back of Jurassic Park, I'm still of the right age, I'm hyped, but what I still really appreciate about Lost World, and the films after it haven't achieved it, I still feel that feeling of threat and dread.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the moment they're on the island, I feel like I'm on the island. Like I'm just scared.
Yeah.
How far away is the nearest dinosaur that they're not aware of? Are they in the wrong place?
Exactly.
Do they need to be somewhere else?
Yeah.
And I never got that with JP3 because like barely anyone dies in it. Anyone that does dies in like the first few minutes on the runway.
And also,
then-
they can't get killed because they can hear that goddamn satellite phone.
Exactly.
It's like putting a bell on a fucking dinosaur, isn't it?
And then obviously by the time you got to the Jurassic World film, Jurassic World is just plastic. And
Yes.
I don't think Fallen Kingdom was actually made. And he just kind of escaped and
Yeah, it was
into
put together
existence.
from deleted scenes from the previous one.
yeah. But yeah, Lost World, it just, I don't know. Even if it's the first more brooding, serious half, or even the more Spielbergian romp second half, I felt threat throughout, where you've got the T-Rex chase towards the waterfall, you've got the climax with the raptors, which I love, and I hate seeing the raptors in equal measure because they just make me shit myself.
I was just getting to that, yeah.
Yeah. And even the T-Rex stomping around San Diego, it's completely just ridiculous. But because it was the first time, obviously, we got to see those worlds collide, and it was like, oh, fuck, imagine if there was that outside your window. You know,
Yeah.
chowing down.
Mum, there's a
on your
dinosaur in
dog.
the backyard. I'll go back to
Yeah.
sleep. You're having a nightmare.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, the incredibly overacting guy who gets chomped. Was it? Was
Yeah.
it?
Oh,
Who was
yeah.
it? The guy who goes up to the blockbuster. He's like,
That's
That
right,
was
yeah.
that was David Kep.
it's like 5 seconds after he's dead, and he's still
I
going.
think
It's like,
that
dude,
was
chill out. You're dead.
that was
Stop making
David.
noises.
Yeah, that was David Kep. That was
Oh,
the screenwriter for the first one. He did a screenplay with Michael Crichton for the first one, and for
Is it
some
right?
unknown reason, Michael Crichton didn't do the screenplay with him for the second. I think if Michael Crichton had done the screenplay for his second novel, it would have been
Yeah.
phenomenal, because it is dark, it is rich with espionage. Lewis Dodgson's there. Sarah Harding is a completely different character
Hilarious.
to what we get from Julianne Moore. But the scene with the raptors, I love seeing abandoned places. It's not an obsession of mine. It's like a passing interest of mine. And to see that put in movie form, when I go to the workers' village,
Your
it
fuel
had-
pumps and stuff. It's
yeah,
cool.
it had echoes of seeing newspapers of Chernobyl
Yeah,
or other abandoned cities that nature had reclaimed. And it's fascinating because what it does, it puts you in a familiar setting, but by having it overgrown and dark and full of shadows and wreckage and stuff like that around it, your anxiety peaks because you're in your comfort zone. A house or a block of flats and a petrol garage and a general store and a playground. You see that every shit every day. You look out of a train window, you walk past it every day. But when it's at night time and it's all overgrown and there are velociraptors running around in long grass, picking people off, I just want to say that works on so many levels, that thing. And that scene is lifted directly from the book, almost not line for line, but almost shot for shot. And the raptors pick people off out of the grass.
And let's not forget, I don't think this scene gets celebrated enough. It kind of gets
you're not
forgotten.
gonna-
Dieter and the compies, which is just
Yes.
nasty.
Mm.
Just like,
Yeah,
it's
but
like
it's a
death by
nasty
a
piece of
thousand
work.
cuts. It's death
Yeah.
by a thousand cuts. It's just like little bit,
Mm-hmm.
gets away, a little bit, and it's just then it just becomes too much. And like, oh,
Yeah.
sod
The
this.
thing is though with the compies as well, they never explain it in the film.
so cute.
They're in the first book and the second book. They are basically cleaner fish for the park.
Okay.
So they're not actually in an enclosure because they're too small. They're used as cleaner fish. So they literally go from paddock to paddock, eating dinosaur droppings, bugs, that kind of thing, and eating dinosaur. Just basically just clearing up everything. Now the compies, weirdly, in both books is described as having a toxin in their saliva, like Komodo dragons,
Okay.
where it paralyzes you.
Okay.
And infection sets in within like 10 minutes, so it paralyzes you, and then like it's like a weird anesthetic thing it has going on. And that's how Hammond dies in the first book. Spoilers, everyone. Hammond dies in the
He
first
doesn't
book.
die. He's in the second film. What are you talking about?
Ian Malcolm was killed before Michael Crichton found out he was a beloved character.
I love the blockbuster scene, sorry. Like,
Yeah.
the posters, that they made up for this film was
Oh, God.
incredible. With Arnold Schwarzenegger's King Lear.
Yeah.
And there was a Robin Williams one as well, I think they made up from Jack. I can't remember the title that they made up for it now. But I remember seeing them and it just made me chuckle a little bit. And I looked up about these film posters and I did find out that the reason they chose King Lear was included because a reference to the scene where Schwarzenegger plays Hamlet in the movie Last Action Hero, which in 1993 that film was released against Jurassic Park.
Okay.
That's a really deep cut of a reference, that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, if it is, then yeah, I mean, that is proper deep. Yeah, I loved it.
And again, I'm going to keep compare. I didn't mean to pick this apart.
But it was going to happen in some ways because it is the inferior movie to the original Jurassic Park, and I think it was always going to be a difficult thing to do to live up to that first film. And it's never going to be the original, but they could have done much more.
There's a massive plot hole as well. Everyone's been asking for years, who killed the crew of the Venture?
Yeah, how did the hand get nibbled off? Because raptors weren't on the ship. I've never understood that.
You would
the
have thought they'd
hand
show
on the
some
wheel
of it,
was
wouldn't you?
so odd. Maybe
It
Compton's
had
did it.
elements lifted from the first book, and in one draft there were raptors on the boat, which is a plot thread taken from the first book, where they get to the East Dock when the storms pass, and they've got the night vision goggles. Not night vision goggles, sorry, the digital binoculars. And they can zoom in to the boat, and they can see the boat approaching or leaving, and it's got the raptors, literally baby raptors, are just jumping all over the ship and playing around the railings and stuff. And in one, I don't even believe it was shot, and I think it's a plot hole that's created because they were going to put the raptors on the boat heading towards the mainland. Some raptors had got onto the boat. The raptors had worked out that, like in the first book, the raptors worked out that these big things floating on the water come over and then they go again. Where are they coming from? So the raptors work out that if they get on the boat as stowaways, they can escape the island potentially. They were going to pick that plot thread up in the second film, and then they didn't go anywhere with it. They leave this really weird, ambiguous thing like, who ate all the fucking people on this ship?
Unless you watch it on ITV4 and no one died on the ship, the guy just fell asleep holding onto the wheel and they crashed because all you ever see is his hand and no actual severed wrist. So.
It's just insane because there's no proof of raptors on there. The baby Rex and the
asleep.
The female Rex are in the hold because he hasn't escaped yet.
It's a bit weird.
It only escapes when the safety controls are turned off and it can successfully open the cargo doors. And I believe they were going to put that little plot in from the first book, and it never made it. And it creates a plot hole. Who ate the people?
Yeah.
The Indoraptor did it. There you go.
And also, was the ship... I can't remember. Was the ship on autopilot? The fucking Indoraptor. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it must have been. I always found right at the end of the film as well, like when they've got the baby T-Rex, and they're running back to the ship and trying to lure the T-Rex back there as well to get it back in the cargo hold, and they get the baby in there, and then they run out, and like the T-Rex takes forever to get to the cargo hold. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? What is she doing? Like, has she stopped off for some dinner? Or what? 1 minute...
Yeah, that family's dog.
1 minute, like, she was right behind them as they were running through the warehouse. And then the next minute, it seemed to take... I don't know where it went. I don't know if it fell over, had a drink, whatever. But, yeah, I just felt that was a bit weird as well. Like how... And I understand, like, they was trying to set up with the InGen, the new InGen boss, dude, I can't remember his name, went in there to get the baby out, didn't he? And they were trying to set all that up, I guess, so he could get eaten by the baby T-Rex. But yeah, it's just like in real world, I mean, if this was really to happen, then that T-Rex would be right on your ass and you wouldn't have a chance. So, but yeah, I just thought that was a bit funny as well. But yeah,
it's like they didn't go anywhere with the whole corporate greed thing either of doing Jurassic Park but on the mainland. And it was a thing that was mentioned briefly in the first book. And Hammond even says, why didn't I build in Orlando in the film? Which is a direct reference to a line from the book where he was planning on it and was warned against it because what if they escaped? Then you'd have dinosaurs on the mainland, then you'd be screwed. So that's when he chose to build it offshore.
don't know what the fascination is with like putting all these like dangerous. I mean, I know we have zoos and dangerous animals in there, but I mean, this is on another level. And like, where's the fascination with putting all these dinosaurs on mainland? Just leave them on the island where they're it's much safer there. Just leave them there.
And as much as I like the idea of Jurassic World, where they just throw you into a fully functioning park, like, yeah, I like that in theory. That's a great idea, where people have had dinosaurs, a fully functioning Jurassic Park for decades now. I like that idea. But then it just turns into just monster trash movie. It's just, and can I just say, the animatronics in this film are stunning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're really good. Yeah.
They're just, especially the close-ups you get of the Stegosaurus, and they showed us dinosaurs that we'd never seen in live action before, and in broad daylight. And I have a lump in my throat every time you see the trophy hunters going out and snaring the Pachycephalosaurus and bringing down the massive dinosaurs and stuff. And you're like, man, like, but it's just it's an anti-poaching thing, isn't it? It's just like, this shit happens every day just because it happens to dinosaurs in a film. This shit happens to elephants and rhinos and hippos all the time.
Well, the
missed opportunities, but it was still fun.
Yeah. Like you say, it had its moments. There was a couple of action scenes that was really exciting and edge of your seat, and like Rich said, still had that kind of terror, that scaredness which helped it as well. But yeah, there were some problems with it, unfortunately, which just wouldn't elevate it up there with the original. The SS Venture, which transports the Tyrannosaurus Rex to San Diego, is a reference to King Kong, who was transported to New York City on a ship called the SS Venture. This is the franchise's second reference to the classic movie. The gate in the first movie was modelled on the Skull Island gate, with Dr. Ian Malcolm pointing this out. Parts of the promotion for this movie included a website which visitors could explore to find out facts about the film's production. One page included John Hammond's office. If users found a hidden password, they could access Hammond's computer and InGen files. For the username, they used Hammond J, and one of the passwords was Gandhi, with reference to Sir Richard Attenborough having directed Gandhi in 1982. I quite like that fact, just because it reminded me of all those kind of like CD-ROM kind of website things that we used to really gawp at. That this film was released on the 18th of July of 1997 with a budget of $73 million. Unsurprisingly,
Modest.
It grossed $618 million. So,
jeez. Yeah, okay, it did well.
It did all right, didn't it? It did all right. Yeah, but no, it was a great pick, and I was really happy to go back and rewatch The Lost World. Like you say, just quite an enjoyable film, just with its issues. So let's move on to the last of our picks for this episode, and as we all know, it's my pick, and that was The Fifth Element.
You just had an accident.
Yes, I know I just had an accident, you daffy bastard. You have 1 point left on your license. Look out! No, I can't believe it. Any survivors? You okay?
Menaloine, plakta satundi mondo ciwo in meta lakta liguna. Ispero bena kasma pero junda. Pero ferji hamas meta tutkid zid handla. Suk. Doko metimbakta se no vuoi. Tito male ne palela. Kiko hamas stato un tron. Sono doppio da dindo scala. Nella dindo. Gela boom.
Boom, yeah. I understand boom.
Bada boom.
Big. Yeah, big bada boom.
Big. Bada big boom. Big.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, big bada boom.
Bada boom.
Big boom. Big bada boom. You know, you're lucky you're not dead.
Now, when I look back on 97, this was one of the films that just jumped out at me, and I have a really like fondness for this film, because I remember watching it originally, and I don't know. There's just something about this film that's different from the rest that I watched, and it's kind of stuck in my head ever since. And I don't know whether it's because of the way it was filmed. You know, it's very bright, it's very colourful. I don't know if it was just Mila. I'm so rubbish at pronouncing names, but Mila Djokovic. Is that right?
Mia Jovovich.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Or Mia W.S. Anderson. There you go.
But I don't know if it was just her performance in this film.
So good in this film, and that's something I didn't remember.
Yeah, or whether it was just the whole thing of this like sci-fi-ness, and like at the time I was 2-3 years into heavily being into science fiction and these kind of films, and we're in the middle of this epidemic of sci-fi films. You know, it's massive at this time. You know, Independence Day has really rocketed it to the forefront of like Hollywood films, and
yeah.
And all those, like we've said in the past, have been great, you know, but then we came to this film and like there was just something different about it in a great way. And hats off to Luc Besson. Have I pronounced that right? Who knows?
Luc Besson. Yeah.
the director, you know, I think he did a great job. And the idea of these 4 elements being needed, and then this 5th one, it was just great. And maybe it was just everything about it, the plot, the acting, the colour, you know, for a science fiction film. You know, we're so used to it being quite dark and gloomy, and you know, you look at Event Horizon, you know how dark that is, and here we've got like outfits designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier and orange hair, and just I don't know, it was just awesome to see. And the soundtrack was great. You know, the dance opera thing, tracking was different and amazing, and still to this day, I watched it back today and I still just had a great time watching it. And that language that they created for this film was just awesome, and it just made it even more like
bada boom, bada boom,
yeah,
bada boom. She's honestly, I forgot how much I adore her in this film.
I think she's fantastic.
So good. Like her physical comedy, her facial expressions.
Sure.
Like, well, not even physical comedy, just her physical acting. Like, calling it physical comedy is almost kind of doing it a disservice. She's got this real, like, that's so naive. It's very quite emotional in the way she acts. She's so, like, infantile and naive and vulnerable.
But lovable at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Corbin Dallas multipass. I love it. I've been doing that for years. Multipass.
Oh, she's so good. I watch this film again now. Oh, I honestly, I rented this like years and years and years ago, and obviously at the time I was like, oh yeah, sci-fi film, this is fun. And obviously as you get older, you kind of appreciate this kind of performances more.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just jumped out to me. I forgot how incredible she is in this film.
And
I could absolutely pour.
Yeah, and it was like, I remember watching it back and like it being a Bruce Willis film. Everything else, and like when I was watching it back, I was like, well, Bruce Willis is just being Bruce Willis in this film.
In everything.
He's really unremarkable, I'm not going to lie. And a bit creepy as well. I actually kind of didn't like his character by the end. It's kind of creepy what they kind of do with him. How he kind of creeps on her a little bit. And I love her, I love you. And when he goes to kiss her, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this now. It's just kind of sitting a bit wrong with me, but...
Yeah,
Gary Oldman, fantastic.
Yeah, Gary Oldman played
accent
a blinder.
His accent rides that line between really cheesy and hammy, but actually quite good.
Yeah, and like scenes in this film just made me laugh as well. Like you're talking about the Gary Oldman character when he's choking on the cherry pip. Just that whole scene was just funny and just.
He saved my life.
Yeah,
and they take him away. Just like it's so weird.
But they had great ideas as well. You know, there was obviously set in the future, and they had to come up with some interesting and unique things. You know, things like the cigarette machine on the wall of his apartment, where they're trying to get him to cut down.
I love that joke.
How much smoke? Tell the good people the joke, Chris. Oh, well, just the whole thing. Yeah, and they've got.
No, it just makes me laugh. Because I originally we used to watch it quite a lot. I didn't notice until my brother pointed it out to me, and I felt like an idiot because I was just like, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah, because they got the cigarette that's like 3/4 of the filter, and then the 1/4 of the actual cigarette as well, which I appreciated. And like I said, with all those like wonderful outfits made by Jean-Paul Gaultier, and that whole like bandage outfit that they created for Lilu was exceptional. You know, it was well out there, and I appreciated it very much so. And even like, do you know, like at the beginning of the film, and like Corbin opens his apartment door, and then there's that like attacker who wants to rob him.
Oh, that was weird. The guy was like kind of tripping balls. That guy was really weird.
But he had this like TV on his head. I was like, what the fuck was that? You know?
What he was saying now, he's like, oh god. He's like holding him up one. He's like, "Get your money,
yeah,
get your money." It's just like,
yeah, he was tripping on something. I'm telling you, but
So
it just. I was too busy just looking at this TV on his head. I was like, dude, well, you got a TV on your head, man. No.
Yeah, it's a weird film. And one thing I didn't like about it, I don't think I really liked him back in the day, and even now, I was like, I felt old, but it just was too much for me. Was Chris Tucker in it? I was like, this is doing my nut in now.
I loved Chris Tucker at the time, but I understand what you're saying now.
It was like I didn't know what the fuck he was saying, and it was just like. I guess that's kind of the idea of his character. It's just this, eccentric, overbearing figure within like the showbiz industry. He's this presenter, chat show host, kind of whatever the fuck he is, and it just became really overbearing.
Yeah, no, I agree, and you can probably see why his career kind of faded out really after the Rush Hour films.
Yeah.
Probably because of that, because he kind of carried that over. Obviously, that was his trait, really, wasn't it? To be that kind of character.
Pitched.
And it was, it was fun at the time, I guess, but it wasn't it can never be a long-term thing. I wonder what he's doing now. He's probably a lawyer.
Yeah.
But, I appreciated all that kind of stuff. And, like, even the aliens, like, in these, like, weird robotic, were they like Independence Day? Was there a creature inside this, or was that the actual alien in this like robotic machine?
Kind of gave me like kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide kind of vibes. That like the design of those, like I really love that. But I think you might be right. I think they were saying aside. I'm not too sure. But
Chris, have you got any memories of the film?
Yeah, me and my brother used to watch it quite a lot, and it was one of his favourite films, which I always found weird because my brother's never really been a sci-fi guy. I think because it was Bruce Willis and it was a bit manic, and it wasn't a very thinky film, was it? It tells you almost straight away that she is the fifth element.
Yeah.
She is the embodiment of biology, genetics, everything pure and beautiful in the human race. She's the fifth element. It tells you almost straight away. So there are no surprises really. All you're watching is just this film of it all coming together. And my brother used to watch it quite a lot on video, and I remember I hadn't even seen it, and he was watching it one morning. I was just like, oh, this is quite good. I actually like this concept. And it's some really impressive effect shots in it as well.
Yeah, the whole city with all the cars flying around and all that kind of impressed me today.
Stunning.
It was insane. And the miniatures work, and they blend miniature, full scale, quarter scale, and CG, and it's flawlessly blended together. Absolutely stunning. They do a Texas switch where it goes from a miniature shot to a CG shot, and it just looks stunning. Like you said, Jason, even today, like wow, like. And I love the fact that people doing Star Wars now, especially Rogue One and Solo, a Star Wars story, people realise that they can shoot miniatures still today and still make them look stunning. Yes, you can. And you just have to watch The Fifth Element. And like you said, Jean-Paul Gaultier's costuming, it's like, God, it's amazing.
It was just...
It looks beautiful. It is just... Every shot looks almost like a futuristic or a futurism painting done by some concept artist. And if I remember rightly, the guy working on the visual effects, was it Douglas Trumbull?
I think so, yes.
And he is responsible for pretty much what Star Trek looks like today. If he didn't do his work on, I think, Star Trek Phase 2, which was the aborted TV series in the 70s, which then became the first movie by Robert Wise, Douglas Trumbull and his team were literally responsible for what Star Trek looks like now. And they shot it and they they lit everything and all the miniatures were done, and Star Trek has its look thanks to Douglas Trumbull's effects team back in the 70s. And yeah, I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, he was visual effects supervisor.
Oh, what, on The Fifth Element?
On The Fifth Element, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's quite interesting. I never really knew that connection.
Yeah, Douglas Trumbull is an award-winning, very well-respected visual effects icon. He's worked on everything.
No, he's one of those people, is he?
Yeah, literally everything. He's the go-to guy, I think, or was the go-to guy for massive effects blockbusters and real thinky sci-fi, because you can do production design for sci-fi and it looks generic as fuck.
Yeah.
Or you can find people like Douglas Trumbull or Andrew Probert or Rick Sternbach, these really big guys in visual effects who, instead of just making it for the sake of it, they make everything functional and make it exist for a reason. And I think that adds believability. And when you watch The Fifth Element, everything has a purpose on the taxi cabs. Yeah. And that miniature built for the guy selling food at the doorways.
Oh, what, the selling the Chinese food?
That looks beautiful when I was watching it.
Yeah.
And it's stunning.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea Digital Domain were working on this back then. I didn't know they were that old.
There you go.
And Digital Domain, I think, is still going now. Bloody hell. This is the first time I've actually looked this deep into Fifth Element. I'm actually scrolling through a website right now.
And they say men can't multitask. But I think one of the biggest scenes that were one of my big favourites of the film was the whole reconstruction scene of Lilu, and they're using that machine to restructure her bones and then putting the tissue over her and putting the skin on and all that kind of stuff. That scene just really wowed me even today. For a film that is 25 years old, it's pretty crazy to think that they're pulling this kind of stuff off back then, really. And I quite like the way it ended. I know you said that Corbin's seemed a bit of a prick at the end, really, didn't he? But
he did,
which is a bit strange. Do you think, like, for a leading actor, leading hero, to have that kind of vibe coming off him, or do you think that's just something they missed? They didn't really realise it was happening.
I don't think they actually realised. I think he was actually kind of meant to be this like sympathetic character. Like, obviously, you know, he's having a relationship and he wanted a woman to love him and all this stuff, and you know, he was kind of just down his luck. But I just found him a bit creepy, and whatever they intended didn't work for me.
Yeah, but this is what happens when you cast someone like Bruce Willis, who plays himself in a movie, and the smarmy self-importantness comes off the screen. And again, it gets lost in translation, where the character you put down on a page is completely fucked up by the actor who is given the part. Or not so much fucked up, that's strong words, but just not given the respect and the care and the love that it needs to nurture a character like that. You could have cast hundreds of different actors that would have played the part so much better than Bruce Willis. But you're talking mid-90s, you got Bruce Willis, he's like the biggest bankable star you could ever get for your project.
And there was a couple of other highlights for me in the film, and I really loved the gun that Gary Oldman's character was selling to the weird creature alien people, the dog people. I don't know what they were. But that gun was awesome. I mean, fuck, it had everything. I was like, yes, I love it.
Agreed.
Flamethrower, rocket launcher, little missiles, a net thrower. It was brilliant. I loved it. And then the other revelation was like, oh my God, I forgot Lee Evans was in this film.
Yeah.
I saw him come on. I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot he was in this. And he just plays Lee Evans, really, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it was good to see. He was one of my favourite stand-ups in the time, and quite happy that he kind of got into a couple of biggish Hollywood films and stuff like that. But yeah, it was quite cool to see that too. Matty Boo on the Discord said that The Fifth Element is rather pretty, like an anime in live action form. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's got that kind of industrial, futuristic, but colourful, eccentric. And as much as I didn't like him, in a way, Chris Tucker has that kind of like crazed, eccentric anime character vibe to him.
That manic energy.
Yeah. Just
and
that
eyes
crazy
that are bigger than normal eyes.
The way he moves, and even though the women are like reacting around him, it's that really weird anime vibe.
But weirdly with Chris Tucker, like I don't want to put a trigger warning on what I'm about to say. It's not. No. It's not meant to be taken out of context. But by having Chris Tucker in that film playing Ruby Rhod, and the way the character is written, and the way he is dressed and presented, it's had recently. I've noticed, especially we're in Pride Month now at the moment. I've noticed a lot of love for Chris Tucker's portrayal of Ruby Rhod, because he's essentially either an asexual guy or or pansexual or bisexual guy. He's like non-binary, so you can't pin down.
Yeah.
Is he a guy? Is he a girl? Is he both? Who cares? He's himself. He doesn't give a fuck. He's this
great time.
He's this massive media personality, and he's loving the body he's in. I actually loved that interpretation that it's more the character of Ruby Rhod is more relevant now than it ever has been.
What do you think about like him doing the kind of like sexy whisper things to the females in this film though?
It's kind of weird. That's one of the things that annoyed me. It was just a bit like, what's going on? I was getting lost. I was like, this is all moving too fast for me. I'm old. I'm getting old. It's like, everyone just needs to shut up. It's getting too loud. And even whispering.
No.
Yeah, it was like that. I was like, oh no.
Like they had that whole scene and...
Yeah, when he's like making the stewardess like come and it's just
yeah. And I was sitting there, I was thinking, I was going to watch this with my son. I'm quite glad I didn't. Just for that scene.
If I watched with my parents back in the day, I'd be like, oh shit, I'm embarrassed now.
You get an awkward glance when you're like, oh, I'm not really watching it, Mum.
Dad comes in and goes, oh, I know why you like this film. And then he walks back out. It's like, oh, for God's sake.
We have a thing when we watch a film together with my eldest son, because we watch, obviously he's like 15 now, so we're watching a bit more adulty kind of films, but every time a kissing scene or that kind of scene comes on, he automatically goes and looks at his watch. When these kind of scenes come on now, we're always like, what's the time, Aaron? But Andrew on Discord also said about The Fifth Element that he loves Luc Besson and Mila Jovovich. Thank you. For starters, but the crazy sci-fi settings, the comedy, the action, the cast, it all just comes together so well, and I could watch it over and over. And I did realise just now that I forgot to read out Matty Boo's thoughts on Jurassic Park, The Lost World. So I'll just read that out now quickly. And he says about that, The Lost World had a novelty ice lolly out, and I had better memories sucking on that than watching the movie. Although he doesn't think it's a terrible film.
Far from it.
Yeah. Also, I think we're all agreed on that one.
Yeah. But back to The Fifth Element, the flying traffic created by the visual effects team at Digital Domain, there you go, Chris, allowed artists to create personalised license plates. Though never visible in the film, the state slogan printed on all license plates reads, New York, the fuck you state.
Nice.
And one of the things that I really loved about the film, like I mentioned, was the language that they created for Lilu, and the divine language was invented by co-writer and director Luc Besson, and further refined by Rich, come on.
Mila Jovovich.
Thank you. Who had little trouble learning.
Imagine everyone finds out I'm actually pronouncing it wrong. You can't. It's actually it's Mila Jovovich something.
Someone get the Speak and Spell website up and just type it in.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Who had little trouble learning and developing it, as she was already fluent in 4 languages. The language had only 400 words. The both of them held conversations and wrote letters to each other in the language as practice. By the end of filming, they were able to have full conversations in this language. How cool is that?
That's
pretty cool.
That's
really
some
cool.
Star Trek level fictional language shit, that is.
Yeah, and like I kind of wonder whether she can still pull it off now. It'd be quite cool to ask her that question to see if she can still remember it at all.
Get her on as a guest for fun.
Yeah, man. I'll get in touch with her agents tomorrow.
I'll talk to Paul and see what he says. Get your wife on, mate.
The Fifth Element was released on the 6th of June 1997 with a budget of $93 million.
Wow.
It took $263.9 million. So surprised we never really got a sequel. I'm sure they could have made one out of something or other from that film, but
yeah, no,
I'm quite glad that they didn't. So. I mean, some films just don't need sequels, like Jurassic Park, but
indeed.
Some films just best left alone as a standalone feature. I think The Fifth Element is probably one of those prime examples of that. Well, that's a lot for this one. Thank you, as always, to everyone for joining us. We made it through, guys. Well done. And if you've enjoyed the pod and would like to support us, then we do have a coffee page where you can give us a one-off tip or if you are feeling kinder, a monthly tip starting from just £1. A massive thank you to all who have done so. You're all legends. And if that's not right for you, you can also support us by giving us a review or rating on Apple, Spotify or Podchaser. You can find the links in the show notes. Also, on our website at thewolfiepod.com, you can find links to our coffee page, our entire back catalogue of episodes, and much, much more. As mentioned at the beginning, we now have a Discord, and if you fancy joining to chat not just 90s stuff, but also 80s and zeros, plus modern day TV, films and games, then you can find a link in the show notes as well, or on our website. It'll be great to see you there. And you can also hear me and Rich talk video games with Andrew and Steve on Dreamcast Years podcast. And don't forget that Rich can also be found at the Dreamcast Junkyard. Yay. You can find these on Twitter at Dreamcast Years and at the DC Junkyard. Next time, we finally hit the TV shows of 1997. And is it as much of a stellar year for TV that it was for movies? Tune in to find out. Chaps, it's time to say goodbye.
Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas.
Bada boom.
My name has been Jason. Dom, it's over to you.
Well, that's it for another episode of What's Wrong with Wolfie. The boys are off now to hit the roulette table with Patricia Routledge. See you later.
What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.